I'm going to wrap up today's discussion with a few examples of how groups we've worked with, both Tim and I, have responded to data coming from their team. How have you seen organizations use data to deliver on their workplace mission, Tim?
So I think there's a number of let's focus on two, I think, key observations. I think the first one is around engaging employees on the journey, because I think it's one thing to look at the data that we collect simply as a numeric analysis or a numeric X-ray of an organization's performance. I think let's look at it at a more human level, and let's think about it as a way of involving employees in a discussion around the need for change, what change actually means for them, and what the outcome of that change program may mean, hopefully mean in terms of a more effective, more enjoyable, more engaging, more collaborative workplace. So that for me is a prime driver. I think the second one is around accountability, and I think if design teams like yourselves can become more accountable for their role within organizational performance, within the delivery of projects, and if it can act to draw all of the professional contributors, both inside an organization and the consultants that they gather around them externally, together at one table with a common purpose of delivering a high performance new workplace afterwards. Those for me are the two biggest imperatives of the reason for engaging in a product like ours, and that deeper diving analysis. These are monumental projects, and for the credit unions, we can't underestimate the drama almost involved in some of those change projects. So I'd really like to see them well considered, well thought through, and that's clearly evidenced in the work that Momentum are doing. But it's a monumental change. But let's take everybody on that journey and think about it long term.
These are monumental projects, and there's so much opportunity. Just engaging the team members around the need for change. I think this first group is a great example. A credit union in the Philadelphia market, we're helping develop a 20-year workplace strategy. Working with them, we've toned in on what they've dubbed the vegetable patch model. It's the idea that a strict division of space between private offices, cubicles, and 6-person conference rooms just doesn't deliver. They are shifting the overall balance of space away from personal me space towards a variety of well-conceived we spaces. Everyone has a dedicated space to work, but in terms of overall footprint, it's much smaller, just about half of the total overall office space. The rest of the office is made up of a variety of different types of gathering and collaboration spaces. It's like a vegetable patch in that everything is designed towards work, but there's a very wide variety of spaces, grouped in an orderly way throughout the headquarters. People have less personal space, and this works because many will have the choice and ability to work away from their desks when they need to. The end result for this client is that they need 28,000 square feet of office space for 135 employees instead of the earlier 38,000 square foot projection. For one client, it was simply about documenting the impact of a poor environment. We had team members who had worked for over 20 years in a subterranean floor without any natural daylight. It became apparent that the poor physical environment had an impact on multiple areas of workplace effectiveness. This helped the team center on a design strategy that would fracture open the center of the new headquarters building so that twice as many of the occupants would have a direct view of the outdoors. This here's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Seattle. Their objective with the building's shape isn't so unlike the V-shaped building we developed. It is centered on a courtyard that will serve as a visible connection point from pretty much anywhere else in the building. One recent example is particularly interesting. I've worked with a team for nearly 3 years who I would place in the upper quartile in terms of organizational engagement, culture, and especially their ability to create and execute on a strategy. They also happen to have a pretty nice operations building, maybe a bit crowded, but up to date and truly Class A office space. We launched into our workplace effectiveness survey as we do, and one thing we uncovered was that nearly half of the employee team felt that the building didn't contribute to a sense of community. It didn't support their ability to attract new talent, and it had a negative impact on corporate culture. This was a surprise at first, but as we looked under the carpet in a few areas, the reasons why became evident. It's really tough for people from different departments to circulate throughout the building. Lots of dead-end corridors that had turned a bit into fiefdoms. There also really wasn't any communal space or reason for employees to gather together casually. This insight will help us focus on getting various parts of the organization to connect better, and we'll use a greater proportion of what we call we space to do this. It's a lot of fun to follow up with a client after a few years and see how this new workplace is performing, and that's what I did with the CEO of Three Rivers Credit Union in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He came from a pretty conservative banking background and wasn't on the team when the project was conceived. What he told us last year really stuck. I never would have done this, and having worked here for the last 2 years, I would have pushed things even further. Their entire team has moved out of enclosed offices. Don spends his mornings working on a laptop in the employee cafe because eventually, just like at the Gates Center, everyone I need to catch up with has come by before 11 a.m. Over the next year, our research around the credit union workplace will continue. We are looking to document the shifts in the way credit union teams work. Along the way, we hope to better understand the way credit union workplaces are currently supporting your ways of working. With this data, we will be able to compare your teams and your workplaces to the workplaces of over 160,000 other workers around the world. And this will include a comparison to other financial services organizations. If you're interested in being part of this research, we'll be sharing our contact information as well as a way to download this presentation in a few moments. We'll continue to work with Tim Oldman and Liesman to conduct this research. Tim, I know you are working on a few other initiatives. What does the future look like for the Liesman Index?
Yeah, the future looks very exciting. It's the pace of data that we're gathering increases in a sort of hockey stick curve almost on a daily basis. More and more organizations gathering around us, both as designers and those like yourselves delivering workplace solutions, and clients trying to be better informed clients. And as their interest and excitement around the topic matter increases, so too does ours, and we were really just mirroring their enthusiasm. A database now of, as I said, 165,000 individual employees is just such a rich resource to try and really dig in a way that has never been available to this industry before to understand what the key drivers and levers are of workplace. So things like you mentioned activity-based working. We were approached a year and a half ago by the International Facility Management Association, their Swedish chapter, where activity-based working is really something on everybody's agenda up there across the whole of the Nordics, really. But IFMA approached us and said, look, hey, we need an independent assessment of this activity-based working thing, because we're seeing some clients who are reporting very high results and some people reporting very negative results. So we added 5 or 6 additional questions to the survey for a year. So every single employee, whether they were in an activity-based working space or not, answered these additional 5 or 6 questions. And in a year later, we'd gathered 70,000 responses, of which 7,500 of those were from employees where the employer believed they were in activity-based solutions. And we've been able to cut that and come back with some really deep insights into the problems associated with, as well as the huge benefits. I'm not trying to take away the huge success of activity-based working as a concept, but really what we've uncovered is some of the major obstacles to the successful delivery of ABW. And in 90% of the cases, that finger points directly at this lack of ability for organizations to change the culture and to change behaviors. It's much easier to change the physical infrastructure. So anything that engages a deeper conversation with anybody, frankly, around organizational change, human behavior change is what's getting us real excited at the moment, Mark.
Well, that's awesome, and that's getting us pretty excited as well. So I'd like to conclude by thanking everyone for joining our conversation today. I hope this discussion has helped you understand how the work your teams encounter is changing and will continue to change, and how your workplaces can be a tool towards higher organizational performance. As you move forward with your workplace strategies, take some time to understand how your team's work activities and how your current operations buildings are supporting them. I'd like to thank Tim Oldman and Millie Diamond with Liesman for their help in putting together today's presentation, and Dana with Q's for hosting our discussion. I'd also like to thank our clients, especially Verity, Freedom, Twin Star, Oregon State, and Three Rivers Credit Unions. And lastly, thanks to Momentum's marketing director, J.E. Emmingham, for her help with the visuals in today's presentation. We'll be posting a link to download this webinar at www.momentumbuilds.com, and the link will also be available at the Q's website. If you'd like to take a closer look at how well your workplace is supporting your teams, please connect with me at mallgard@momentumbuilds.com.